8 days ago, something snapped in California, and most people still don't even realize how close this is getting to home. Now, let's go ahead and name names right out the gate. Phillips 66 has begun shutting down critical refining operations. Valero Energy is exiting. Marathon Petroleum is barely holding on. And Gavin Newsom, let's just say that he's now being forced to respond as the system that he governs starts breaking in real time. Now, this is not a talking point. This is not a theory. This is fuel infrastructure that is going dark. Now, behind the scenes, San Pablo Bay Pipeline. This is the artery that moved oil from Bakersfield and Kern County to Northern California for 70 years. It's already dead. No explosion, no fuel, no spill. It just bled out financially. Now, here's where it gets serious. Members of Congress like Vince Vaughn, they're warning that this is no longer just about gas prices. They're actually using words that the media avoids: national security. And all of this is happening while Donald J. Trump is back in the White House. I mean, he's pushing energy independence. Meanwhile, California is moving in the opposite direction. I mean, Lord only knows why they're doing that. Anyway, gas prices are only the first signal. Job losses come next. Then you've got supply shocks that follow. And once the refineries close and pipelines shut down, they don't magically just come back online. So what we're watching right now isn't politics, it's dominoes. And California, unfortunately, is running out of time. Guys, be sure, take a second. It only takes a second. It's totally free. Hit the like button and subscribe. I really appreciate you guys. So this right here, this is the moment where the illusion finally breaks. Phillips 66, they have already begun shutting down refinery operations inside of California. And suddenly this crisis is no longer theoretical. So when a company that is that large starts pulling back, it's not a warning shot. This is a verdict. And now Governor Gavin Newsom is being forced to respond publicly because real infrastructure is actually going dark on his watch. Refineries are not apps that you can just reboot. They're not press releases you can spin. When Phillips 66 slows or sputters their operations, let alone shutters their operations, fuel supply tightens immediately. Prices respond instantly and the margin for error disappears. And so this is not even about what might happen years from now. This is about what's happening right now in real time. Meanwhile, the state tries to protect control. And what makes this moment completely different is the visibility here, guys. Look, Californians, they feel it at the gas pump. They feel it before they even hear it in a speech. Diesel, gasoline, jet fuel, this all moves through the same fragile system. And once a refinery shuts down, even partially, the clock starts ticking. California just realized how little slack it actually has. Guys, take a second, drop a comment down below. Let me know what gas prices are where you're at, and let me know what state you're in. Here's where the story gets a little uncomfortable. Phillips 66 is not an outlier. It's part of a pattern. Valero Energy is exiting California refining altogether. Marathon Petroleum is struggling to keep operations viable. And these are not reckless companies. These are disciplined, profit-driven operators looking at the same math, and they're reacting to the same conclusion. Every refinery closure shrinks capacity, and every loss of capacity makes the remaining refineries less stable. That's the domino effect. So when Valero Energy pulls out, it doesn't just remove fuel, it removes redundancy. And when Marathon Petroleum cuts back, it raises costs for everyone else who's still standing. You see how this is a big problem for the entire state? This is how systems collapse quietly before they collapse loudly. Now, California didn't lose one refinery. It lost margin, it lost flexibility, it lost a lot of time. And once these facilities shut down, they don't reopen just because prices spike. Permits expire, equipment is dismantled, skilled labor leaves, and what you're watching is a cascading failure, not a coincidence. Now, before I go any further, guys, I need to connect this to something that's way closer to home, because this exact moment here, the exact same domino effect that we're watching with refineries and pipelines, starting to show up in the financial system as well. Now, you've probably noticed it already. Banks quietly getting shaky again, quiet closures, liquidity problems, government backstops, nobody really explains. But here's the real question that people don't ask soon enough. What happens to your savings if your bank makes the wrong bet? Now, this is exactly why I partner with Noble Gold Investments. They help people to move a portion of their savings or their retirement into real physical gold and silver assets, not some paper IOUs that depend on confidence and promises or bailouts. So when people actually see how simple it is, they almost always say the same thing. Well, that makes sense. And this is exactly why thousands of Americans are already calling the phone number down below on your screen, 877-646-5347, or they're visiting RonYatesGold.com to get their free wealth protection kit, because just like energy infrastructure, once confidence cracks, things move fast. And when systems start shaking, the smart money doesn't wait for headlines. It moves first. And while attention stayed on refineries, the most important failure happened almost silently. Pay attention, guys. The San Pablo Bay pipeline, owned through Core Energy Infrastructure Trust and operated by Crimson Midstream, they shut down permanently. There was no explosion, no spill, no dramatic footage. It died from financial starvation. Now, for 70 years, this line fed Northern California crude reliably, moving up to 100,000 barrels a day. Then the volumes fell, costs stayed fixed, and losses piled up month after month. Now, this matters because pipelines are the backbone. When a pipeline goes dark, everything that's connected to it suddenly becomes uneconomic overnight. Pumping stations, storage terminals, maintenance crews. The company warned the state. Letters were sent. Losses were documented. But once the math breaks, there's no political fix. December 15th came and went, and the pipeline just stopped flowing. So when people ask why fuel systems feel brittle now, this is why. The artery is gone. And let's just go ahead and strip politics out just for a second, okay? Let's talk logistics. Crude oil from Bakersfield and Kern County had one economic route north to Bay Area refineries through the San Pablo Bay pipeline. That route no longer exists. And without it, refineries can't source California's heavy crude competitively, and producers can't move their state oil at scale. Trucking thousands of barrels a day would wreck roads and budgets. I mean, the traffic is already bad in California. Can you imagine increasing it with more trucks? Rail capacity isn't built for it. Ports are not configured to absorb sudden surges. Shipping south to Los Angeles costs way more money, and those refineries are closing too. Now, this is not ideology. It's physics and accounting. Distance costs money. Weight costs money. Time costs money. When that one route disappears, the entire system unravels. Refineries lose feedstock. Producers shut wells. Jobs vanish. Prices rise. California didn't just lose infrastructure. It just lost the map that made its energy economy work. And so every time this crisis is mentioned, someone says the same thing. Well, just go ahead and move the oil another way. Trucks, rail, ships. I mean, it all sounds reasonable until you run the numbers. I mean, to replace what the pipeline carried, California would need thousands of truck trips every week. Think about that, right? That would literally obliterate the roads. It would explode emissions, drive traffic through the roof, and drive costs through the roof right alongside of it. And so rail isn't really that much better. The tank cars don't exist. The routes aren't built, and the scheduling alone would take years to scale. Marine shipping sounds elegant, but Bay Area terminals, they're not designed for sudden volume spikes. Permits, environmental reviews. I mean, look, let's not even forget about the dock capacity. All of this becomes checkpoints. This is why the pipeline existed in the first place. It wasn't a convenience thing. It was the only method that worked at scale. So when Phillips 66 or Valero Energy evaluates alternatives, they reach the same conclusion. There is no plan B that's fast, cheap, and realistic. Once the pipeline dies, the system loses its spine. And what most people notice first is the price sign at the gas station. Anybody else notice the price signs at the gas station? This is the earliest signal, not the full impact though. Oh, it gets worse. Gasoline spikes immediately because supply tightens instantly. Diesel follows because freight runs on diesel. Jet fuel comes next, affecting flights and shipping. This is how shortages announce themselves quietly before they become obvious. Now, the big mistake here is thinking that prices are the problem. They're just the messenger. The real issue is that infrastructure loss can't be quickly reversed. And so when Phillips 66 scales back refining or Valero Energy exits entirely, those barrels don't magically reappear. Imports cost more. Transports cost more. Storage tightens. Volatility becomes a new normal. Consumers feel it first. Businesses feel it next. And by the time policymakers acknowledge it, the system has already adjusted upward. California isn't seeing a spike because of panic. It's actually seeing a spike because the math no longer works. Now, behind every refinery closure that we're seeing here, and of course, let's not forget about the pipeline shutdown, there are people whose livelihoods disappear almost instantly. When Phillips 66 scales down and Valero Energy exits, it's not just executives making decisions. It's refinery operators, pipeline controllers, welders, electricians, contractors getting pink slips. And these are not interchangeable jobs. A pipeline welder can't just walk into another industry and pick up where he left off. Their certifications are rather specific. Their skills are specialized. Kind of reminds me of Liam Neeson. You guys remember that guy? And in the movies, he would always say, I have a very special set of skills. It's kind of like those electricians and those welders that I'm talking about right here. So nowhere is this felt harder than Kern County. Oil production underpins entire communities there. So when crude doesn't or can't move economically, wells shut down. When wells shut down, tax revenue collapses. Small family operators don't have cash buffers or alternate routes. So what do? They just close down permanently. So what starts as energy policy outcome becomes an employment shock that ripples through housing and schools and local businesses almost overnight. So by the time that the headlines catch up, the damage is already locked in. This, my friends, this is where the language changes, and it matters. Look, Congressman Vince Fong has been very explicit. California's energy collapse is no longer just an economic issue. It's a national security issue now. Fuel reliability underpins emergency response, military logistics, agriculture, and transportation. So when supply chains become fragile, response times slow and vulnerabilities grow. This isn't hypothetical. California already imports significant amounts of fuel, and so as refining capacity shrinks, dependency rises. That means exposure to global shipping disruptions, geopolitical tensions, and price shock they're beyond state control. Energy dependence is not a slogan, it's a buffer against chaos. So what makes this really alarming is the timing. Global instability remains high, and yet California's internal energy resilience is weakening. So when elected officials start using national security language, it's because the risk threshold has already been crossed. The question is not whether prices rise, it's whether reliability can even be guaranteed at all. And so this is really important to lock in the timeline, okay? Understand that Donald J. Trump is back in the White House at the federal level. The posture toward energy has shifted decisively. So the administration is openly supportive of domestic production, infrastructure build out, and energy reliability. We know that. But here's the hard truth. That shift does not automatically fix California's internal constraints. Energy policy in California is still governed by state level rules. Governor Gavin Newsom's all over this, permitting regimes and market conditions that don't change overnight, no matter who sits in Washington. Governor Gavin Newsom's still calling the shots out there. Pipelines don't restart just because of a press conference. Refineries don't reopen because of a policy speech. Once capital leaves, it rarely comes back without significant structural reform. So this kind of creates this political paradox. So while the federal government pushes for energy independence, California's infrastructure continues to contract. That means Californians are feeling the pain first, even as national policy moves in the opposite direction. The state of California is effectively operating on a separate track, so to speak, with consequences that can't be federally overridden in real time. And this same kind of quiet failure, it's hitting people in places that they would never expect. I mean, look, a man reached out to me recently and he thought that an extra $90 a month coming out of his check was normal. It wasn't inflation, it wasn't taxes, it was just a bad Medicare plan. And by the end of the year, that was over $1,000 gone, quietly. No warning, no alert, no headline. And this is the part people miss. These systems don't collapse loudly at first. They leak a little bit, then they drain, and by the time you notice it, the damage is already done. This is exactly why I partner with Chapter, folks. Chapter, they show you where your Medicare coverage is quietly draining money you cannot afford to lose. The exact same way that California didn't realize what was breaking until it was too late. Now, most people are not waiting. They're already calling 909-563-8279, or they're visiting askchapter.org/Ron to have someone actually look at their coverage line by line for free. Call them right now before it's too late, because whether it's energy or it's healthcare or retirement, the biggest losses are the ones that nobody explains until, unfortunately, after they happen. So don't wait. Now, here's the real contradiction at the center of this whole crisis here. California still runs on oil, regardless of what Gavin Newsom wants to do. I know he wants to kill all the sales of gas-powered cars by like 2035 and make everybody live in these 5-minute cities and drive electric cars. That's great, cool. But California still runs on oil today. Transportation, agriculture, shipping, emergency services, they're all dependent on refined fuel. And yet the policies governing refineries and pipelines, they make those operations increasingly unprofitable and unpredictable. And so that tension can't be hand-waved away. This is not about morality or motives. It's about outcomes. So when regulations increase costs and reduce certainty, capital exits. Phillips 66 didn't begin shutdowns because demand vanished. Demand's always been there. In fact, it's been spiking. Valero Energy didn't exit because Californians suddenly stopped driving their cars. They responded to economics. Markets move faster than legislation, and they don't wait for consensus. The result is a system that depends on oil while discouraging the infrastructure required to supply it. Imports fill the gaps at higher costs, higher emissions, and lower reliability. The irony is unavoidable. Environmental goals collide with economic reality, and reality always collects its bill. So what makes California's energy crisis especially dangerous is that it feeds on itself. Every refinery closure, whether it's Phillips 66 or Valero Energy or strain at Marathon Petroleum, it pretty much shrinks the customer base that pipelines depend on. So when pipelines like San Pablo Bay Pipeline lose volume, fixed costs don't fall with them, losses grow, shutdowns follow, and when pipelines shut down, remaining refineries lose access to affordable crude, pushing them closer and closer to the edge. That's the feedback loop. Prices rise, demand softens, margins tighten, and capital flees. Job losses then reduce local tax bases, which then weakens public services and political stability. You see the trend here, right? And so investors, they end up seeing the trend and they just say, hey, I'm just going to stay away from this thing. Insurance costs rise, financing dries up, every step accelerates the next. This, my friends, is exactly why waiting makes those things worse. There's no pause button on compounding failure. Once infrastructure begins collapsing, every recovery cost multiplies. California isn't facing a single problem. It's actually facing a system that it's learned how to fail faster. And so here's the real question California can no longer dodge. Can a state that still depends on oil afford to make oil infrastructure unviable? I mean, there's really no easy answer here, but that's the point. The crisis isn't offering solutions. It's delivering consequences. Governor Gavin Newsom can respond. Sure, of course, Governor Gavin Newsom can respond, but legislators can debate. But refineries don't wait for consensus, and pipelines don't operate on hope and fairy dust. Once Phillips 66 shuts down and Valero Energy exits, those decisions echo for decades. Capacity doesn't snap back, skills don't instantly return, costs don't magically fall. So with Donald J. Trump back in the White House pushing energy reliability, California stands at a crossroads of its own making. Adapt policy to reality, or just let reality impose harsher outcomes. Higher prices, fewer jobs, less reliability. The dominoes are already falling. The one and only uncertainty left is how many hit the ground before something changes.